Hello everyone, my name is Sophie and welcome back to another video. A few years ago there was a book that changed Booktok and it wasn't Fourth Wing, if you might be thinking that. It was of course the book Lightlark by Aster. It all started with her pitching that book on her TikTok being like, would you read this? I don't remember what she said about it. Rulers fighting against curses, love, there's a boy with black hair. Would you read it? And everyone was quick to announce that, yes, we want to read it. That's allegedly what ended up getting her the book deal for Lightlark. I've had a long history with Aster, sadly. Before I continue on, I just want to make clear that of course everything I say in this video is jokes for shits and giggles. Like, I'm not being serious. I'm just doing a shtick with Aster. I don't actually have anything against her. I'm just pretending. I'm just acting, okay? Everything I say is my opinion and nothing is facts. And I will be reviewing her newest book, Grimm and Oro, which I have been highly anticipating. Frank, I wasn't highly anticipating it. I didn't even want to read it, but I felt like I had the obligation. We have Lightlark, which is the first one. People were hyped for it. It wasn't really good. There were a lot of videos made about it. Then we got the second one, Nightbane, and the third one, Skyshade. Maybe those are the names. I'm not confident. With the release of the third book, it turned out that it was actually going to be a 4-book series. Or 5. No, 4. She was like, prank, this isn't the last book, there's one more. And everyone was like, why? I feel like the quality of them kept deteriorating over time. And I, of course, have reviewed all of them, if you care. And for some reason, she just kept going. And going. And going. I feel like I put more effort into the look today than she put in her books. Especially this one. You will be shook when you find out what this one is about. Have a little hairband, you know, little glitter in the eyes, and then the dress, you can't even see it, but it's with stars on it. Very beautiful. Because of course, I'm dressed for Nightshade. For Grimm. Team Grimm. Are you Team Grimm or Team Oro? She's still perpetuating this love triangle between Isla, whose name is pronounced Isla, but who cares about that? Oro and Grimm. And nobody in the entire world believes that Isla is gonna end up with Oro. Because he's the blonde one. Grimm is the mysterious dark one. Of course I'm Team Grimm. Yeah, I dressed up for him. Matter of fact, I'm Team Groro. Grimm and Oro, they should kiss. They should kiss. Of course, what I say in this video won't make any sense to you if you don't know the previous books. I'm so sorry. So feel free to rewatch all of my reviews that I have done. I even have done a video on her. The final Lightlark book is coming out in December. I think, no, I don't know. The beginning of December. And I will be reading it, of course. I don't think anybody cares anymore at this point, which is like the reason I find it even more fascinating that her publisher is putting so much effort into her. And also, if you remember, she put out a romance book that I reviewed that also wasn't good. And now she also announced a new adult romance, because the Lightlark series is still labeled as young adult. And her new book is called Starside. It looks exactly like a book from the Lightlark series. With the name also, sounds like it could be part of that universe. It's coming out on the 24th of March 2026. And I will read out the summary to you. Let's just chat a little bit about her new release while we're already here. That's going to be coming out. Enter the world of Starside, where swords wield magic and power is not inherited, but claimed. Hundreds of years ago, a brutal war split a land in two. Oh my god, a land being split? That sounds similar to another series she has written. Starside is the realm of magic and immortals, the descendants of the gods, living in power-rich paradise. Stormside. I haven't even read the summary yet. I'm cold reading it now, and yet again, why are we using terms like Starside and Stormside? Just like her Star Stick from Lightlark, her portaling device, the Star Stick, that felt like it should have a better name. The main characters, trainers from the Lightlark series, were also something called Very Weird Simplistic, where you were like, shouldn't they have a fancy name? Stormside is where mortals fight for scraps of magic. Every 50 years, the gates between them open, and 50 challengers are allowed to journey across Starside on a deadly quest to access a pool of magic that can heal, grant wealth, and extend life. In Lightlark, every 100 years, we have rulers fighting, and in Starside, every 50 years, we have 50 people fighting. So it's like, it's different. It's different. Everyone has their reasons for entering, but Aris only has vengeance. As a child, a goddess set fire to her village, killing her family. Fuck. Eris isn't after the god's magic, but she's going to kill them. First, she must survive the culling, the king's deadly competition. A competition! Wow. We didn't have that on Lightlark. We did have that on Lightlark. An orphaned blacksmith's apprentice, Eris doesn't have superior weapons of the heirs from the great houses. But the greatest swords, ones that contain power, are not inherited or bought. They are claimed by both sides. This is a very long premise. It just keeps going. Like, at some point it's good. And when Eris claims a great sword, it makes her not just a real competitor, but a target. Getting past the gates is only the beginning. Starsight is deadlier than it seems. If you have to enter a competition with 50 other people who are trying to kill each other to get magic, I think I would imagine that it was already really deadly. What do you mean it's deadlier as it seems? I would think it's pretty deadly. If the ancient creatures, magic-wielding beasts, and bloodthirsty immortals weren't dangerous enough, a new peril has even immortals fearing what rises from the ground at night. With a blade most would kill to claim, Eris can't trust anyone, especially at Harlan Raker. Harlan Raker? Is he Turkish? The merciless and mysterious King's Guard who betrayed her years ago, and whom they have a past. That's also new, and not like Lightlark at all. It's exactly like Lightlark. And who may now be the key to her survival. But Aris is hiding a secret tied to her family's death. Them burning to death? And when it's revealed, not even the gods will be able to stop what's coming, ... Ah! So excited. Why does someone have a review for this already? And it's a 1 star. Nothing in here is original is what Stephanie said. How did she get an arc? Give it to me! This sounds like her taking Lightlark and kind of changing it a little bit and like publishing it again. And that brings us to today's review of Grimm and Oro. The book is called Grimm and Oro. If you haven't seen it, it's a dual book. I don't know what the professional term for it is. It looks really pretty. It's foiled, it has sprayed edges, it's like with art inside. There's a lot of effort put into the production of these books. You read one side and then you flip it and then you get to the other story of the other character. She had been pitching it about like, you're gonna change sides. If you team this, you're gonna be team that. Like, this is gonna change your view on everything. I didn't really care to read it, but then I was like, I am dedicated to my craft, which is being a hater, especially of people that are very high up on my op list. And I also don't want to miss an opportunity to dress up. And so that is why I read it. And I didn't go in it, well, I did go it. That's a lie. I was going to say I didn't go into it with any expectation, but I did go into it with expectation. And that was that it would give me more of the world and the world building. I am not an expert on the Lightlark series. I have read all these books and I don't really get what's going on sometimes because I don't think Aster knows what's going on sometimes either. I'm gonna give you a little bit of a recap. So Isla, the main female character, is a wildling and she goes to the Centennial, which happens every 100 years, where the rulers of the different nations come together to break these curses that were laid upon them years ago. And throughout the series, of course, we find out how these curses came to be, but very like surface level. We're being told how they came to be, and I will recap it in a second. But I thought going into it, it was, well, we're at least gonna get more about that, about the curses. Because the two love interests, Oro and Grimm, are super fucking old. 500 years for Grimm. Oro doesn't get a specification. We don't know if he's older, if he's younger, we don't know. So I would imagine that we would see more of their dynamic in the past, how the curses came to be, in just the dude's childhood, because this is a book about them. And then there was also some like pocket dimension stuff in the second book where she was in a castle and there was like a different dimension or something, and then I feel like that just kind of got lost along the way and it's not spoken about in this book either. Grimm also has history with Isla's dad, which we don't go into. And then either in the second or the third book, it's revealed that Grimm and Isla also have a history together, that he erased her memories before the Centennial began in the first book, and that they are actually married, and Isla died at one point and Grimm bound her life to his, so she wouldn't actually die. And so if either of them dies, the other one will also die now. But then we also have the issue of her having to kill one of the dudes to save the world, and then she also got married to Oro. And so now the question is, what's gonna happen in book 4? I don't know. That's kind of like the baseline of what we have about the story. The curses, if you don't remember, they were the reason Lightlark happened in the first place, because they were trying to break the curses, which they succeeded in the end. It was like the nightshades can't go out in the night because that's when they're strongest, so the curse is that they can only go out throughout the day and not the night, and they will die or something. And there were like different levels of severity in the curses too, which was never explained and isn't in this book either. The original curses were cast by Aurora, the Starling ruler. She did this by using the heart of Lightlark, which is what they were trying to find in the first book to break the curses, which looked like an egg, or the yolk of an egg, or whatever she described, a yolky thing, whatever she used in the first book that everyone made fun of. Aurora asked Grimm to find the heart for her many years ago so she could cast these curses, because he would be able to unlock it. And in order to ask this of him, she knew like she couldn't just go to him, she had to trick him. So she appeared to him in the form of a wildling woman. And he's very horny, and so he was like, yeah, I'm gonna do that for you. But he did not know exactly what him unlocking the heart would do. He was just seduced by her. She was like looking really hot. She was like, can you find the heart for me? I need it. He was like, yeah, I can do that. Gave the heart to her. She cast the curses, but he didn't know that she was going to cast curses, basically. The reason Aurora, who tricked him, cast the curse in the first place is because she was engaged to Egan, and Egan is Oro's older brother, who's actually, or was actually, the king at the time. And Egan was cheating on Aurora, and she found out. And he wasn't just cheating with anybody, but he was cheating on her with Violet, and Violet is a wildling woman who, or maybe even the ruler, who was also Aurora's best friend at the time. So her best friend was sleeping with her husband, basically. This is brought up in like 2 sentences in this book, but we already knew all of this information, okay? I don't know in which book we found this out, but we knew this. So me reading this book, or picking it up in the first place, I was thinking this is gonna be so fun to find out more about this topic. Who Aurora was, how she was able to seduce Grimm, the connection with all of them together, with all of these different realms, like just seeing it out of Grimm's perspective, because he was a big part of it. Forget it. Aster has said herself that you should read Oro's perspective first and then Grimm's. Oro's is slightly longer, and I didn't do that. I read Grimm's first because I don't let anyone tell me what to do. I will just now go over it a little bit so you can see what we actually got to see. And then at the end, after going over both the perspectives, we can come back and discuss with the class. Grimm's POV starts in his early childhood, where it's revealed how the what is his realm called again? Nightshade. I forgot. At the time, his father is the king, and Grimm has very many siblings, because in Nightshade it's customary that the ruler has a lot of children, and then that they don't have anything to do with one another, and also the mothers of the children get killed. Yeah. And when they're old enough, they start fighting to the death, and the one who wins will be the next ruler. That's how Nightshade is run. This is like a good concept. Not that it's cool or anything or original, but like, okay, it's a little bit interesting at least. And you would think that maybe this is something we can work with and focus Grimm's POV on. His childhood takes up very little of the fucking book. This event of the sibling killing has a name that I forgot, but that is like 2 pages. It takes up 2 pages in the entire novella, which is, let's just say 50-50, 50%. Grimm had a dramatic childhood because he didn't have a mom. His dad hated him because he was really weak in comparison to all of his other siblings. But it turned out at one point that he could teleport, which is a very rare and ancient Nightshade flare, which a flare is a special bonus ability. And he was trying to hide this for the longest time, but at some point his dad found out, and that was just like really bad then, because then his dad like really wanted him to be his successor, and before that he hadn't been focusing on him at all. I don't even remember, he had like one sibling that he was close with, a sister who was like really strong and probably going to be the new ruler, and she was like sneaking around, and that was the only child he had a connection with. And then for some reason all of them get killed. I don't remember it, if I'm being honest, because it was 2 pages of the 50% that he takes up in this book. I think his dad ended up killing all of them or something like that, so he would be the next ruler. And then there's like a bunch of him being depressed and fighting a war that his dad started, and he doesn't even want to be fighting in it. too damn bad. We don't really care about this though, if we're being honest. Like, we want to see Isla ASAP and we want them to fuck, right? So this is like, I don't want to lie, right? But I would say 10% of his part of the book is his childhood, and then the rest of the book is Isla. Actually, I lied. He meets Isla for the first time 8% in. So the 8% before that was his siblings dying. Okay. And of course, keep in mind that the curses were also cast before he met Isla. So that was in those 8%. And then the other 42%, and sit down when I say this, right? If you're standing up doing something, sit down and grab onto something. I'm going to tell you right now what the other 42% are. Remember Nightbane, where it was revealed that Isla's memories had been erased and that she had a whole past with Grimm, and we keep getting flashbacks throughout the book of her remembering Grimm and the time they had together? What if I were to tell you that now, for the other 42% of this novella, we get those exact same flashbacks, tit for tat, just out of Grimm's POV? Nothing else. I don't want to be mean. Maybe there were 1 or 2 scenes that weren't a flashback in Nightbane, that were new original scenes. Other than that, you can line it up exactly with Nightbane. This is like when Stephanie Meyer published Twilight out of Edward's POV, but at least people wanted that. Nobody asked for this. I've kept waiting for something original to happen in the story, but it never came. And I do have to admit that I just stopped reading it then. I'm gonna be honest. My ebook, his POV was the first one, which is why I read his first. Like, I wasn't gonna skip around. I was gonna do that. Maybe 35% into the book, and at 50% his POV ends. That's when I just started flipping through the pages, seeing if something new would happen, and it didn't, and I stopped reading it and just went to Oro's POV. Why the fuck would I sit here like a dumbass and just reread Nightbane from his POV? And his POV is literally just him going, I have a boner. I'm so hot for Isla. I'm watching her while she sleeps. Not in a cutie way, which that's actually never cute, doesn't matter, but in like a creepy, weird ass, you're 500 years old, get a hobby type way. Don't you have a realm to run? Let's see if I have something exciting marked in Grimm's POV that I can share with you. But again, watch my Nightbane review and then you know what's happening in Grimm's POV. The first scene he meets Isla is, if you don't remember, when she accidentally teleports into Nightshade and is lined up with a bunch of other women because Grimm is being forced by his tribunal or whatever to finally produce an heir. His dad is dead, or I don't know what happened to him, and they're pressing him that he finally needs to reproduce and uphold this tradition of having a bunch of children and then them fighting to death like he did with his siblings, but he didn't because they were killed and then he was just left over. He of course notices Isla immediately and he goes, the room is full, but she has my full attention. The room is full, but she has my full attention. Double full in the same sentence. Twice. You're using full in the same sentence. Twice. Anyway, is there no synonym for full? The issue with Nightshade, if you don't remember, is that there's a bunch of creatures coming out of the cracks of the earth and fighting everyone and killing everyone, and he has to fight them off with his power, but it's taking a big toll on him. He goes, there's only one metal that can pierce them and we have little of it left. And he means the tip of the arrows that his shooters are shooting at these fucking creatures to kill them because they can fly. Just collect the arrows after you shot them dead. Is that not a possibility? It's just a thought. Get me on the tribunal, like, or I don't even know what the fuck that means. Get me on the council. I'll help him. I also have to say that the only trauma that has happened to him in his life, he keeps regurgitating, okay, I wanted to use a big word and I don't know how to pronounce it. He keeps bringing it up throughout his entire POV, which is the only thing that keeps him going is the fact, or is like fueling his rage, is the fact that his dad 500 years ago killed his sister and he never knew his mother. And it's just like, if you're 500 years old, and fuck me. You're 500 years old. I'm not saying get over it, but I'm just like saying, isn't there more traumatic stuff that has happened in your life? Why do you keep bringing this up? You're not going outside for anything new to happen? I don't really care for Grimm and Oro and Isla. I don't care for anyone in this book. Now, let me talk about the one thing that, besides of course the curse casting that wasn't a theme in this book, really was annoying. We learn at some point that Isla is both Nightshade and Wildling. and her dad was Grimm's not guardian, what was he? Officer? Like first Grimm's general, of course, is what I'm trying to say, right? And Grimm keeps saying, he's a man that I trusted so much. I trusted him with my life. He was fighting so hard besides me to find the heart of Lightlark or whatever, to help end the curses. I trusted him so much and he betrayed me. He just left one day and didn't come back. And that's because he found Isla's mother in the wildling realm and fucked her and had a child with her. That's what happened. I got cold. Sorry. So I just think that a prequel, which I thought this was, not a rehashing events we already know about, book, would have been the perfect opportunity to talk about him alongside with the curses. We don't even get to know the dude's name. The fuck? Grimm does say, however, if he hadn't betrayed me, she wouldn't exist. Along with the realization comes a mix of happiness and fury. He is fucking the daughter of like one of his closest friends. Because the way I read it, they were also friends. They weren't just military buddies, they were also friends. That's weird. So, again, this entire POV is just the events that we already know about, plus Grimm constantly in his head being like, she's so hot, I have a tent in my pants. And that's not an exaggeration, that is genuinely what's happening, so you're not missing out on anything if I'm telling you that that's it, right? That's when I know I won't be letting her go. I gave her a chance not to come back. I gave her a chance to be rid of me. Now, she's returned of her own volitation. She's mine. Leave that woman alone. She's your enemy, I say. You're going to kill her. Her tears mean nothing. They need to mean nothing. He keeps trying to convince himself like, this is my enemy, and she's like so vicious and trying to kill me, and she's not been doing anything the entire time. That's vicious. Well, she did stab him at the first time they met, but that was just kind of like, after that, they got over that, you know what I mean? She didn't try again. She realized that there was no point. So, and he really wants to fuck her. Did I mention that before? That he has a tent in his pants. Did I mention that? He has a boner. Just so you know. You die with a smile on your mouth? Isn't it, lips? You die with a smile on your lips? I'm being nitpicky. He also at one point calls her an investment, which is a very Six of Crows remnant. That's not something she came up with. We are similar, ... so similar. Because she also doesn't have parents. That's why he says this. It's crazy. She looks like my wife. I banished the thought instantly. Wife? What am I thinking? First the thought of the necklace, ... now this? She looks like my wife. Now you guys have to tell me how you read this. And also, by the way, I wrote this down and I want to know your opinion. This is the beginning of the pages, this little thingy. Does it look like a thong or not? Like a thong from the front. That's all I was thinking while I was seeing this. Let me know. I will read this out to you now and you let me know what this implies. I lie in bed and think about those moments again and again, replaying the memories and over, watching her eyes flutter closed, hearing her call out my name. As I remember it all, pleasure blinds me, then fades all too quickly. It's been like this for hours. My hand falls onto the bed beside me, exhausted. My hand falls onto the He's been jerking it for hours, and she's writing that his hand falling next to him because he's so he's exhausted from jerking it? Alex! They almost kissed or something, or maybe they kissed and that's what he's remembering, and then he's just been jerking it to that for hours. His hand is exhausted. Maybe switch hands. Just a suggestion if you can't stop. I don't know how I went from being a warrior and ruler of Nightshade to running errands, but here I am, disguised, wandering from stall to stall, asking if anyone has glitter. He's domesticated. I'm not gentle, I say, thinking it might make her change her mind. But if anything, her desire flares brighter, because he can feel emotions, if you forgot. Could you be? She asks. I remember that from the book. I think I already made fun of this when I read it. Remember when Christian Grey said that he doesn't make love, he fucks? I just can't take men seriously. What do you mean you can't be gentle? Just have normal sex, the fuck? Do we always need to be joking and punching each other in the face? I also think that the voice, or whatever it's called, the way it reads, of both Grimm and Oro and also Isla aren't very different from one another. They don't seem to be distinct. I just feel like there's nothing that gives the character a personal voice, right? Like, if I read a quote from each of them next to each other, or a paragraph, I wouldn't know who it was from. I do think Oro says fuck a little bit more in his POV. That's something I noticed. He said fuck a lot. Anyway, I also think that both Grimm and Oro are very dramatic, and not just them, but authors in general, they keep speaking in grandeur, if that even is the right term. Like, they are, or I don't know if absolutes is the right term, but they always try to top one another. I said this before when I was talking about some sex scene where the description of the sex was just like so over the top, where it was like, we gotta get back down, like, we get it's good, okay, we get it's great, but they're using like, it explodes and all these big words to make paint an image in your mind where you're just like, this is a little bit too much for me. And so when Grimm says about Isla, she is my church, she is my curse, she is my conviction, she is my God, I was a little bit like, do you believe in God? Do you have a church? First of all, right, let's get down to the basics. What kind of God do you believe in? What kind of churches do you have? Takes you out of the story when you read something like this. Like, okay, you can, I don't really care what you do in your bedroom, but in a fantasy novel saying she's my church, it implies that they have like beliefs. And what are those beliefs? Is then what I wonder. Same as when they start talking in Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. Oh, I skipped Wednesday. Nobody cares about Wednesday. And that is when we end Grimm's POV and skip over to Oro. Oro, of course, the Sunling ruler and also the ruler of Lightlark or whatever. I do want to say before talking about his POV, because this applies to both of these men, now that we already have successfully gone through Grimm's POV and realized that there's nothing happening there. I am in very big disbelief that these two men who are assuming it with, I'm assuming it with Oro, we know with Grimm, like 500 years old, have fucked a plethora of women, have been with so many women, that as soon as Isla comes around, they both lose their minds. None of them have ever been seriously in love to a point where they would die for their partner or wanted to be in a serious relationship, but Isla comes around and both of these men are like, that is the hottest woman I've ever seen. They're both obsessed with her. Especially Oro has in his POV so many sex dreams about her. It's so weird. Both of them are super horny the entire time. Grimm to absolute tuned up to the max, like incomparable probably to Oro. But Oro still has these thoughts and has so many sex dreams about her. It was just so weird. Oro's POV starts out also with a childhood flashback where we learn why he is traumatized, and that is because his ability, why did I say like that? When he touches people, they turn into gold. Or anything, he can turn anything into gold. And he accidentally did it to a person once when he was younger, and that was the only time that his dad praised him. His dad didn't really care for him because he had an older brother, Egan, if you remember from the curses. So this is the only time that his dad like paid attention to him and was like proud of him and wanted him to do it again, but he was so traumatized that he didn't want to do it again. And this is only an event that we hear about in passing. Like, we're reminiscing upon it. It's not something that we actually see play out on page like we did with Grimm, where we actually got to experience the event of his siblings dying. With Oro, it's just like, oh yeah, that happened, that's why I'm traumatized. We don't know when it happened in his childhood or how old he is or any like time frame for Oro. So in my opinion, I do think that it's very evident that Aster personally still prefers Grimm over Oro. She's like, yeah, he had something traumatizing happening, but look at Grimm. Like, this happened when he was a baby. We have chapters in this where he goes to different realms, different islands, and trains. I mean, Oro. And that's where he meets all of his friends that are also in the original trilogy. We don't know for how long he trains. Two of the islands are not even relevant at all. Those are Starling and Skyling, and I think one of them is where the gay black man is from. That's in the original trilogy. He also gets mentioned in this book. Luckily, you know, represent. And then you're gonna say, oh, that's like his POV, like his friends and his past. His past is more in focus. Yes, I would say that. We get a little bit more variety in his POV, in Oro's POV. Because he is not just solely focused on Isla the entire time. Like, he actually has friends outside of Isla, whereas Grimm has nobody outside of Isla. So he's just spending his entire book with her, which is Nightbane again. But you're gonna be glad to hear this. Oro's POV is just Lightlark, Oro's version. I don't know why she did that. So we do get more different things from Oro's POV, definitely. Also, even though it is Lightlark. But there are still scenes, again, that you can match up tit for tat with Lightlark. Oro's POV and Lightlark. Yeah, because that's what I wanted to read. That's exactly what I needed. So I think that's why she wanted you to read Oro first, because his is Lightlark, and then she wanted you to read Grimm second, because that is Nightbane, and that's the book that comes after Lightlark. So as I mentioned, it's Oro reminiscing on the fact that he once turned someone into gold. He's traumatized by this. Then, while he's still a child, he gets sent to training on the different islands. He gets like 3 friends out of this, that if you read Lightlark, you know them. I don't know if I ever even mentioned them, because I don't really care for side characters, if I'm being honest. They're hardly ever relevant enough to be mentioned, and that's why I'm not going to mention them. It's amazing that he finds these 3 friends in different circumstances, all of them, but everybody gets along, and then it's just a friend group. It's amazing for him. But the most interesting part of his backstory, I think, is the fact that Oro and Grimm, Groro, I just made this up, I don't know if this is their official ship name. Probably is. Were friends at one point in time. And this is mentioned, maybe in the original trilogy, I don't remember, but it's mentioned in Grimm's POV, very, very briefly, like 2 sentences. And we spend a little bit longer in this time with Oro's. At some point, Grimm got captured, his dad was still the king of Nightshade, and Oro wasn't the king of wherever the fuck he is. Oro's brother was the king at the time, and Grimm wasn't the king yet. And so he got captured, for some reason, Grimm got captured in wherever Oro is and put into prison, and that's where he spent a long time. And Grimm didn't trust him, and so we get to see how they kind of formed a little bit of a friendship, because they realized they are kind of similar. Everyone's similar in this book. Everyone gets each other. And it's about them starting to trust each other. Grimm being like, I prefer being here. I hate my dad. I don't want to fight. Like, he's the one who wants to fight. I just want to hang out. I don't want to do his bidding. I don't want to kill people. And Oro's like, you don't want to kill people? What? There's also like a scene where there's a child and they need to save the child. I don't remember exactly why. I think she got lost in a magical forest and they needed Grimm's help. And Grimm is like, of course I'll help you save this innocent child. And Oro's like, I don't even need to convince you to help me save this innocent child. And Grimm is like, no, let me out of the cell and I'll help this fucking child. The fuck? So they realize that they are similar to one another and that each of them isn't even like that bad of a person or whatever. Grimm eventually gets let out of his cell at one point. It really doesn't matter. And I don't think you care either. And then it's just like hundreds of years, I think. But it's multiple years, definitely, where they're talking about, oh, he always hangs out at the bar and gets drunk, and like they kind of formed a friendship and they hang out and they do things sometimes. They also killed each other's parents, I think. I think Grimm killed Oro's parents and someone from Oro's side killed his dad. I don't really remember. Doesn't matter, because the night the curses get cast, right? Grimm and Oro are hanging out, basically. I don't think they were exactly hanging out, but there's like a lot happening when the curses get cast. This is not further explained. There's just a lot in the castle going on. People screaming, people dying. Oro finds his brother and his affair dead. So Egan, who was the king at the time, Oro's older brother, with Violet, the affair that he had, and Aurora, the fiancée of Egan's, was the one who cast the curses. And if you remember, Grimm was the one who unlocked the heart for her unknowingly, or unknowing that this was gonna cast curses. And so Oro sees his brother dead. Grimm comes running up in the hallway, in the castle hallway. Oro is like, you did this, or something. He immediately just assumes it's Grimm's fault. And Grimm is like, I didn't do this. And since Oro, if you don't remember, can sense when someone is lying or telling the truth, he's picking up on a little bit of deception. Because Grimm had a little bit of something to do with this, but unknowingly. So that's why he feels a little deception. And then they are beefing again and hate each other, even though they were friends for a little bit and went out for a beer sometimes. So their friendship is over officially, because Oro now assumes that he is the sole perpetrator, even though in their time together, which was long, he knows that Grimm has never lied to him. Grimm has been keeping it real. Oro can tell when someone is lying, and Grimm has never once lied to him. But because of the heightened emotions right now, there's a lot going on, he thinks he's lying. Which he kinda is. But Grimm doesn't know he's lying. I also like the fact that she goes, love for rulers is dangerous. It means access to each other's abilities. I've read 3 of the books in the series. I know that. This is not the kind of book you pick up when you haven't read the other 3 books, right? Like, it's very clear. I mean, you could read this one after reading the first 2, since the 3rd one doesn't matter for this novella. It's stating things like this, where it's like, I know it! I know! I've been here before! I once made the mistake of taking Grimm up on a meat-eating contest and ended up vomiting in the gutters. It was at least a year ago and he hasn't let me forget it. First of all, meat-eating contest? You mean dicks? And second of all, I feel like a year is not that long, especially if you're a model. He's like, oh, it was a year ago and he hasn't... does it matter? Time moves differently for you. It's the power seat of the island, made up of pure ancient sunling, wildling, and nightshade ability formed by our ancestors decades ago. I became convinced that finding it and using it to spin the curses was the mistake spoken about in the blah 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 blah. Girl, why is she giving us like expose about the world that we already know? Why? I'll never forget the hint of lie in his words when he denied being responsible. Somehow he was involved. Being deliberately evasive, as if he knows about my flair. He never guessed at it before, or did he? Now I wonder if all my questions in the cell made it obvious. If he knew then, why was he so forthcoming? Well, or maybe because he was just keeping it real. He's like, oh my god, why has he not lied to me? Do we have to lie? We're being real. As I mentioned, this is Lightlark regurgitated out of Oro's perspective. While I was reading Lightlark, I remember that I thought Oro didn't fuck with Isla like that. He didn't really like her that way. I mean, it's obvious in the end because she does choose Oro that she's in love with him and he's in love with her. I did at least think that he wasn't interested in her from the beginning of the book, like right away obsessed like Grimm was. Through this rehashing of events, however, we find out that the first time he saw her, immediately he had a crush on her. Immediately. That just kind of changed his character for me too. Not that I've ever been team anybody but Goro and they need to kiss and work it out. But I think it would have been much more interesting if he had been apprehensive of her from the beginning and been like, yeah, she's cute and everything, but whatever. But no, he wants to fuck her immediately. Just like every other man in this book, except the gay black man from the island that we don't care about. I've memorized her like she's a map and I'm a traveler. I've studied her like she's a text and I'm a scholar. Yeah, okay. But she lied about finding me repulsive. Does that mean she finds me ... attractive? And then she truly felt like putting the Heart of Lightlark scene from the first book that made her get so much flag back into this book. Is that an egg? Isla asks. It falls slowly, then cracks open. Its yolk emerges, in sync with the sun rising from the horizon. The full egg represents the moon, she whispers. The yolk is the sun. Yeah, the Heart of Lightlark is an egg. We know it. We've made fun of it extensively. Let's bring it up again in this book. Celeste is not Celeste, ... but Aurora, my brother's bride. Grimm knew. He knew everything. He unknowingly gave her the Heart of Lightlark, which allowed her to spin the curses. He was partially responsible for them, as I suspected. We know. We know. This is such an unnecessary book. I'm so beyond confused why this was published. I'm so confused. And then the book ends, and I don't remember how it ends, because I don't care. It ends with some scene from Lightlark in Oro's POV, and if you read Grimm's POV second, it ends with some scene from Nightshade. It doesn't matter. This book doesn't matter. It doesn't add anything to the story that is relevant. She has revealed now each of the childhood trauma to us that the 2 love interests revealed, and that was unnecessary. Like, you could, if you really wanted to do that, you could have done it just in one of the normal books. I don't understand why we needed to reread the books out of a different POV. Not enough people care for the books to want to reread them out of a different POV. Let me see what the ratings are on Goodreads. I usually do that at the beginning, I forgot. It only has 3,000 ratings, so nobody is giving a fuck about this book. I'm so sorry. And how it still got a 4.2 average is beyond me. In general, I'm not a novella fan anyway, and I said that recently when I did the Ellie Hazelwood review where she put out 2 short stories or novellas or whatever. I don't think they're necessary ever. Usually the information that you give in those books you can give in a normal story also. I'm especially like apprehensive towards them when you're just retelling a story we already know. The way it's described is the first novella, told from Grimm's perspective, gives readers insight into his past, the motivations and events that cemented his fate as Isla's eventual love interest. The second is narrated by Oro and offers a window into his complex identity, that of a king torn between desire for justice and passion for the woman he loves more than anything. It's bullshit. I also saw someone complain in one of the Goodreads reviews that there's some issues with the audiobook for this, and I didn't research this. This is just what someone said in a review under the book. Allegedly, the audiobook for this was split in 2, so you have to get 2 separate audiobooks. Oro being released in September and Grimm being released in November. Huh? And then the person also said that if you get the sample for the ebook, you only get a few pages of the book, but only from Grimm's POV. So you don't have anything from Oro's. If this is true, which I'm just going to assume that it is, that's insane. This is, even though this is 2 novellas, it is still 1 book that she put out, and wanting to split an audiobook into 2, it makes no sense to me. And then also not releasing them together. Why just wait then until November and release them then, if it's gonna take you so long for the second one. This book is absolutely not worth anything to me. I feel like even if I were a diehard fan of this, and it just makes me think of like the Ekotar novella, Starlight, whatever. I read that when I was so deep in my Sarah J Maas, I love Sarah J Maas, I want to read everything she ever writes phase, and I read it as it released and I was so excited for it. That novellas are only for those people, and I feel like that's a very few selected people, even for Sarah J Maas, and then for the Lightlark series from Aster, that's gonna be like 5 people who want to read this book so bad. To me, it makes no sense that this was published. It makes no sense to me that we just recounted events. The premise of the book, when you just read it, also doesn't make it sound like you're just gonna get a retelling. It does sound like you're gonna get additional information without Isla, but she's just everywhere. I can't seem to escape her. I'm sorry that I couldn't give you anything, but that there wasn't anything to give you. I'm glad that I read this and I could make a picture for myself and realize that it is truly pointless, and in my opinion, in my personal humble opinion, just a cash grab, and I don't understand how this can keep going. Like, truly, everything that keeps happening is just so bizarre in relation to the series. I'm still gonna say it, I'm happy I read it. I'm Team Oro forever. They had such a cute little friendship. They had a meat eating contest. They saved a child together and they had a beer together, and I think that they should also share a kiss. Thank you so much to my lovely members. My members get all of my videos a day early and they get to vote on the books that I read sometimes. This one they didn't, but everybody knew I was gonna read this, right? Like everyone knows I'm the Aster girl. I wanna be someone else. I wanna be a cool girl. Please, can 2 things be true at once? Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you stay happy, you stay healthy, peace and love, and hopefully I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye!